Good morning, everyone. Those of you that don't already know, my name is Randy Robbins. I am the president of the Pass Action Group, and this town hall is to give all of the citizens and residents, members of Sun Lakes, an update of where we're at on this warehouse project. And I've got Sherry up here with me, and Diane, I think, just got in. And Diane made it over, so we've been working on some stuff this morning already. So I just wanted to again thank everybody so far for all the support that we've had. We're doing everything we can to try to stop this warehouse. Just as I won't go through the whole timeline because I think a lot of you in here know it, going all the way back to 2020 when the council first approved the zoning change. Since that time, we have done a lot of different things, plain and simple. We've done fundraisers. We've reached out to different entities, Congress people, and quite frankly, haven't had a lot of help from the outside entities. And a lot of that was because we missed, just as a quick reminder, we missed that very first statute of limitations back coming off of the December 2020 meeting. So our goal has been taking it a different route and working with our attorneys on that. Last week, or about 2 weeks ago, we entered into what's called a tolling agreement with the developers and with the city. It basically gives us the delay. I'm going to let Diane speak to it. Diane is an attorney, not our attorney on this case, but she's an attorney that is a resident here in Sun Lakes. So Diane Burley, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Okay, I'm going to give everybody kind of the overview of where we are procedurally, and the meat of what we're talking about is going to come from Sherry because she's the environmental law whiz, even though she's actually not an attorney. She knows more than I do. Yes, you do. Anyway, the tolling agreement, okay, to back up a little bit. Originally, we had a 30 days from the time that the city denied our appeal. We had 30 days to excuse me a minute, 30 days to file our petition for writ of habeas corpus in the Superior Court. About 3 or 4 days before that time ran out and we were getting ready to file, the developers' attorneys approached our attorneys and said, can we start talking about settlement? Can we negotiate? And our attorneys said, you know, we're duty bound to listen to anybody's, you know, we're duty bound to listen to their offers. It doesn't mean we have to accept them. So we entered into something called a tolling agreement, which, believe it or not, in 40 years of law practice, I had never heard of, but it makes perfect sense. And what it does, and I'm oversimplifying, is that the statute of limitation is tolled or frozen so that we're not penalized for negotiating, because the courts would prefer us to settle this if we could, because litigation's very expensive. So pursuant to the tolling agreement, we have until the 22nd of April to reach a settlement or file the petition. And we are prepared to file the petition several days before the 22nd of April, because of course, so we don't have to worry about that. Tolling agreement is in place. If we don't come to an agreement, then we will file the lawsuit. And in the process of the lawsuit, the CEQA, the California Environmental Quality Act, requires us, both parties, to meet at something called a mandatory settlement conference. And actually, we can have a judge presiding over it, not the judge that hears the petition, a different judge, because settlement negotiations are supposed to be confidential, and they wouldn't want the settlement negotiations to influence how the judge that has the case would rule on the petition. So we think that that may indeed be what happens, that we will file and that then go into settlement conference, and maybe with the judge leaning on everybody, we might be able to come up with something. On the other hand, it may not happen, and then we will go forward with the petition, and then in a few months we'll be filing briefing, and probably take about a year before the Superior Court rules. So if anybody has questions, by the way, you can write them down. Or is that what we're doing? Okay, well, okay, we'll deal with it. Anyway, if you have questions, remind yourself what you want to ask about anything procedural, and I'll try to answer your questions after Sherry speaks, I guess, and here she is.
Stand up. Okay. My name is Sherry Flynn, and I'm going to go over the causes of action that we have in the lawsuit. We have violations of CEQA, which is the California Environmental Quality Act, and we have requested a subsequent EIR because there is more severe impacts with the high cube cold storage warehouse that they put in after the original EIR. There's cumulative impacts that the EIR did not address, such as Sunset Crossroads, and also the proposed medical building on the corner of Highland Springs and Sun Lakes Boulevard, which would have an exit and entrance right where all the trucks are going into Albertsons. And that was approved 20, but it hasn't been acted on. But all of these things were not included in the EIR, and it's required that you have past, present, and future projects that will affect the greenhouse gases, the traffic, the noise, the pollution. So that's one cause of action. Another is a cause of a violation of the Banning Municipal Code, violation of rights to due process, and that's on the recusal of Mary Hamlin, Alberto Sanchez, and Colleen Wallace. In 2020, the California Appeals Court in Petrovich versus City of Sacramento stated that the pre-hearing bias of validate a decision. So we feel that's our strongest case. It would go back to, because Mary Hamlin, obviously, we have multiple emails and proof of that. And the other two also, but it only takes one. So that could send it back to the city council. We're also looking at changing the city council. I'm heading up a recall for Mary Hamlin. I am, thanks. The petition has been submitted. The city has been giving us the runaround, of course, but I should have the final stamped approved petition no later than Friday, and I will have everything ready to go to start collecting signatures, but I can't have anyone collect signatures until that petition is okayed by the city clerk. Oh, yeah, a recall petition. What it means? Oh, EIR is an environmental impact report. Okay, so we're also trying to recall Sanchez and Pingree. They are both up for re-election. I mean, they still have 2.5 years left, and so we want to try to move them out. Pingree's area borders Sunset Crossroads. I would think they'd be highly motivated to recall him. He's also had a lot of conflict of interest with the racetrack that he did not recuse himself from, so there's issues there. And Wallace and Happy are up for re-election, so we're not going to try to recall them, but we're moving forward with Mary Hamlin first. There's also a cause of action violation of zoning laws, and because the general plan and the specific plan must be internally consistent with each other, and along with the tentative parcel map and design review, and those are not consistent with the general plan and the specific plan. And there's also some legislation AB 2840. It's from Assembly Leader Eloise Gomez Reyes, D. Colton. And she has put that in the assembly. It should be looked at in the next couple weeks. What it says is that any logistics center greater than 100,000 feet needs to be a minimum of 1,000 feet between any sensitive receptors, homes, schools, the lakes, healthcare centers. And it also requires that there be high-paid construction workers, and they should come from the local community. So if this were to pass, and we were to be able to send, with the recusal issue, send it back to the city council to redo it, or even to redo the EIR because of these issues, that would take a lot of time. And if this passes, they would have to repass this project. And if this AB 2840 is in place, they couldn't build it because it's like 10 feet from the lakes, literally 10 feet from the lakes. And it is 800 feet from the first houses on Sun Lakes Boulevard. So either way, and I think it's 600 feet from the north side. So either way, that could stop this whole project. So it's very, very important to try to recall these city council members. There's a lot of puzzle pieces moving in here, and we don't know how it's all going to play out, but we're trying to work towards that goal to replace the city council. Then we can replace Doug Schultz, the city manager, and Rush, because they are the real problem in this, and they need to be removed. I'd like to just comment on a little bit about the settlement talks we've had. I want to say what the developer has refused to look at. They won't go back to the original zoning, commercial retail. They will not allow it to be 7 a.m. to 10 p.m. hours of operation. They want 24/7. What was passed, the resolution that was passed 2022-14 by the City Council after the appeal kept it as 7 a.m. to 10 p.m. because they never voted to change that. So we don't know if that's a mistake or if that was on purpose, but they are definitely going to go back to the city and try to make it 24/7. Our stand is that that would cause a subsequent EIR to be required because now you're doubling the pollution, doubling the traffic, doubling everything. Because now you have longer hours of operation than what was originally planned. They've also refused to build any of the 6 retail buildings, and that's a big deal because that would shield it. If it does get built, it would shield it, and that was in all the original plans that was a necessity. And in their final resolution, all through it, they justified doing this project to mitigate the effect on Sun Lakers by putting those 6 buildings there, retail buildings there. And the developer nor the city has any plans to do that. So I think that's also a very strong point with our lawsuit because the city is saying that all the way through, including the latest information, and that's a mitigation factor for us, and they're not going to build it. They're just going to put landscaping there. They also rejected a golf court bridge, off of 3 down there, and having electrical vehicles on site, they rejected also. So that's kind of what they have rejected. They have basically just offered us money to go away. And that does not mitigate the issues, none of the issues, and not enough money, but that doesn't mitigate any of the issues of the pollution, the noise, the traffic, and our quality of life and our health, and I don't think you can put a price on that. So that's kind of where we're at right now.
Thank you, Sherry. One thing I want to note too on the retail, not only did they just say they don't want to build it, the city has given them permission that they don't have to build it. The original documents required it to be built before the warehouse, and the city, in their infinite wisdom, chose to take that off the table. That was in March of 2021, I believe, off the top of my head. So I'm going to let Diane speak a little bit more about litigation and about where we still may be heading and so forth. Because as Sherry said, the settlements were preliminary. They were here. We were here, knowing that some of the stuff that we had up here, there was no way they were going to change. One was even changing the doors so that it wouldn't open to Sun Lakes in any way, shape, or form. But that they rejected that out of hand. So I'm going to give it to Diane a minute, and I'll let her either stand up or come to the podium. We got to see you.
I was feeling tired. I was just waking up, guys. So, okay. So most of you know, I've been in law practice for 40 years. I've handled civil lawsuits. I basically do all criminal appellate work right now, but I have done a whole lot of different kinds of law in 41 years. And early in my career, if any of you heard me speak that day on the veranda, I actually did handle a handful of CEQA lawsuits and also NEPA lawsuits under the federal analog to the California Environmental Quality Act. So I think I have a good global view, and I certainly understand litigation. Litigation is expensive. Every single day we have something happen in the last, what would you say, 2 weeks, that has caused me to, I'm still working, has caused me to have to stop what I'm doing and address something, and I'm not even the lawyer, and our lawyers have had to deal with this and that. And we've had things happen that have or potentially will require more litigation costs because it was something we didn't anticipate. It's kind of like being in a war. You don't know what a war is going to cost. So our attorneys have given us an estimate of taking the litigation, taking the petition for writ of mandate, all the way through briefing to decision by the Superior Court, and that's not even considering a possibility of an appeal, which is also very expensive. I do nothing but appeals now in my own practice, so I understand how much an appeal can cost. But the bottom line is, it's going to cost a lot of money. It's going to cost a lot of money, but it's not a lot of money if everybody gives a small amount, and we can convince the majority of the people in this community, and hopefully Four Seasons, to contribute. Potentially, if everybody contributed $100, do the math for me, because there's a reason I went into law and not medicine. I can't do math. $340,000, $350,000, which would be ample to, I think, to manage our attorneys' fees. 20% have contributed, and I know that the figure is about 110,000. So I mean, we're doing really well. That is really good, but we can do 3 times as well if everybody opens up their pocketbooks and writes us a check. If you're on a fixed income, give us $25. You know, 4 people giving us, 4 households giving us $25 is $100. It's still a lot of money if you add it all up. So, I'm just making a pitch that this is what we need. Another question? You're just reacting to what I'm saying. Anyway, I urge everybody to consider the benefit, the cost of giving a small amount of money versus the benefit of being able to see this case all the way through and force the city and the developer to do what they should have done in the first place, and what they sneaked around us. It's true the statute of limitations was blown, but it was in the middle of the pandemic, and there's questions whether they even gave notice. I mean, it's been unbelievable. I've never seen this kind of malfeasance in 41 years practicing, and boy, I've seen a lot. Welcome to Banning. Yes, thank you. Yes. We might be able to.
Would you please repeat the questions?
Okay. The question was whether if we took this case all the way and we won, whether we could get reimbursement from the losing parties, which would be the city and the developer. Yeah. And the answer is, I think so. There is something on the books that allows us to do that. I don't think it's 100%. But of course, if we win, you know, we've benefited to I don't want to promise people that we can get reimbursed ours. Yeah, but yeah, it's a possibility. Yes. Right. Yes, yes, there are people. I know one person who's. Okay, can you repeat?
Okay, I'll repeat the question. Excuse me, and then we'll start getting the microphone out there. What was just said was, yes, $100 if you take everybody by, you know, 3,327 homes, $100 comes out to $332,000. Not everybody can, not everybody will. So, if, you know, those that can give more, of course, we're going to need to see more, and we'll go into some more of that in a few minutes. But we're going to see more. In other words, we've had right now we've had donations ranging from $10 to $6,000. So we've had a lot of that already, and so we're going to need more of the big ones. We're going to need more of the little ones. It's going to be a little bit of everything. So, okay. Let's let, what I'd like to do is try to finish, because we're not going to spend a whole long time, but we'll finish everything and hold your questions, and then we'll set the podium up here and then come back to questions, and the three of us will be up here to answer them. I think that will work out the best right now.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
And I have one more thing to say. If we aren't able to raise the money to pursue the lawsuit, at some point, we're gonna have to close shop. We're not gonna be able to get what we want, and it puts the board, to our board, in a tough position, because then, you know, should we have accepted an unacceptable settlement offer just because it would have been better than nothing? And so, you know, there's always a risk with litigation. There's always a risk with settlement. But the bottom line is, if we don't, you know, if people aren't able to help fund this lawsuit, the lawsuit probably will not be able to go all the way, which is the only way, other than a very good settlement, which I think is unlikely. It's the only way for us to stop the city. So think really seriously about what we're up against. It's a lot of money. Okay.
Yeah, so on that note, with like Diane said, we have talked preliminary settlement talk, because that's how we got the tolling agreement. Some of you were probably out there thinking, let's settle. Some of you are out there saying, let's stop the warehouse. You never know, as Diane said, you never know whether you're going to win the case or not. That's the reality. We've said that from day one. Okay, and so I don't think we've misled as a group, and I hope you don't think we have. So that's kind of where we are today. Is do we think we can get, you know, probably another $100,000 in coming weeks? Right now, we've done a little bit of marketing. We've gotten some return on investment from that. We had the billboards. For the record, the small billboard behind Home Depot hasn't been paid for a couple months, because it's just our subscription ran out and they haven't changed it, so they've left it up. So we've been lucky in that regard. The big one that was right over here, right on the corner of the property, We extended from 1 month to 2 months at the very beginning, and then they took it down as soon as that second month was up. So we are not still paying for that billboard that's out there behind Home Depot, just as an FYI. But we've had some flyers, and we've done other marketing and so forth to try to get us to that point. Currently, all of our bills are paid. Our attorney's bills up to date are paid. And we've got some money in the bank, but we'll probably need about 100,000 more. And as I've said before, and I will say again, we are being very careful not to tip our hand of what we have or don't have, okay? Anybody in this room or anybody in this community that wants to know details, we can make an appointment with our treasurer, and we will gladly show every bit of the books to you. It's not that we're trying to hide a darn thing from the members of Sun Lakes or Four Seasons or any contributors. So I wanted to get that out there as well. We've already covered that. Sherry, is there anything you'd like to add on any of this? Diane, anything else? Okay, so we can take some questions now. I think what we'll do is move the podium over to here, and we'll do that. So anybody, if you want to just line up along the wall over there, if anybody's got a question. Oh, thanks, Charlie. Thank you, Charlie. So if anybody has any questions, you can come up now, and we'll get you the answers.
Hi, Randy. Hi, Diane, Sherry, thank you. I'm just interested to know what happened at the Four Seasons meeting, I think this last Thursday. How many people were there, reception, I mean, if they were contributing. I'm just very curious about that meeting because I think they're important. That's all, thank you.
The meeting went well. In their case, a lot of people didn't know a lot of the details, so we did spend some time, going over the whole timeline, which we didn't do this morning, of what had gone on, and we did get some donations, not huge amount. We had about 100 and maybe 110 people there. The room seated about 200. We had about 100, little over 100 there, and so we did get some donations off of that. I would have liked to have seen more. They're going to continue plugging everything on their daily report that comes out from their through their HOA, and so they'll be continuing doing on that. So, any other questions or comments? Go ahead and come on up.
My name's Tony Peters. I'm a resident here. Hi, Randy. How you doing today?
Good, Tony.
Just one direct question I just have is, are other senior communities in the general Banning area also aware and contributing to our legal fees?
Not specifically, other than Four Seasons. Because we had also, just to follow up on Darlene's question earlier, we had received some donations from Four Seasons residents prior too. So besides what just came in, we had some before, and we have not from others from Solera or anybody like that. But we have had quite a few donations from people outside, back towards the east side of Banning. We have had some donations coming in from there.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, early, just to follow up on that, early on we had done, the flyers, the ads in the newspaper and so forth, and we got some traction on that and got some involvement.
My name's Jack Marty. I live here, of course. I'd say, first of all, out of sight, out of mind. The group here today is probably about, 70% of the last two groups we've had here.
Hold the mic right there. You go.
The group here today is probably about 70% of the amount of people we've had the last two meetings. And I think since we filed the lawsuit, the activity and the information has been waning. And you just go about regular life and forget about it. I think one of the things that interested me this morning was that 20% of the homes apparently are donating. That leaves 80% that haven't donated. I'm of the belief throughout my life and the things that I've done is that any enterprise needs a marketing, advertising wing, and they need to persuade their customers or potential customers to get on board with their program. And until I got a flyer on that blue page the other day, I haven't seen or heard any of that. I think the group, it's tantamount as important as choosing a lawyer, which you did a good job on, I think, is to go to the customers, which are our residents, and tell them the story rather than say, we hope you'll donate, and then stand there and see whether they come up. I think you got to go get them. You got to get an advertising. You need a marketing wing to this group, and you need however many people you got to put together and get them out there. I had a business years ago, and I had to go advertise. I had to go sell. I had to do sales calls, and I couldn't just sit in my office and wait for the phone to ring. Anybody that does anything and accomplishes it has to go get them, and we're not doing that. I think we need to, like this afternoon, start doing that and put flyers out every week, have golf cart convoys and people running and knocking on doors in each district. You had district representatives putting flyers out, whatever, but I'm not trying to solve the issue, but I think that has been totally lacking up to now. And I think if you need another $100,000, you're going to have to go get it. You're not going to stand here and they're not going to come running to you. It's not going to happen unless you go do it. And since you're the group, you guys volunteered to do it, go get them.
Okay. I want to say something real quick in response to that, and it's just a thought that we've been kind of bandying around in our board meetings. We have been working on marketing. Marketing is tricky and marketing is expensive, but we have been working on it. One of the things that I thought about is that there's a lot of people. What? Oh, there's a lot of people that aren't on social media and don't even know what's going on. And I was thinking, anybody who's worked in an organization probably knows about phone trees, and whether we could put together a phone squad and have people actually telemarket. I don't know how to do it. If there's anybody in this room that has done this, we could use your help. So
Are you volunteering? Are you volunteering?
Okay. Just as another thing, there is a way, anybody who has a cell phone knows there's a way to send texts. Political entities and your dentist and your optometrist, all the time they will text you to remind you of an appointment, and it's all done in an automated manner. I have no idea how to do it. If there's anybody who has that kind of savvy, please come forward and help us. We are looking, we are working on it, we are reaching out to the people we know that might be able to help us, but those are two aspects of marketing I personally would like to see happen. Okay?
Jack, I agree with you, and we have been doing more than you might know, and I'm going to try to explain it, sir. Let me explain it. Okay? We have been reaching out to every club in here. We have currently, sure, we could do ads and everything, but then instead of 100,000, we'd need 150,000 because we're going to spend 50,000 on marketing. So we've got to find that balance. We have reached out to every single club in here, or in the process of. We have received donations through the clubs, through individuals of the clubs. We have an entire volunteer committee started back on that back table right now, and Sue's holding them up. We have the volunteer applications. Thank you, Sue. We have the volunteer applications for your expertise and for this type of marketing. That's one of the secondary reasons for this, and Jim's handing you one right now. Pardon me? Right, and we've had it, but now we're focusing. We are going to focus on the marketing. You're 100% right on that, Jack. We're going to focus on the marketing, but we've got to find that balance of spending too much on marketing and not getting enough return on the marketing. So that's where we're trying to figure out that balance. And right now our attack is to go to the clubs, talk to each of the individuals at the clubs, and so forth. I don't know off the top of my head, a few $100s, and that was one way to do it. And it took us 10 days to get enough volunteers to put them out. So, and we were working on the phone tree. Bruce Brown has been working diligently on the volunteer. I said phone tree, excuse me. Making the phone calls from the lists, from those lists that we have. And so, yeah, I agree with you. We need to do more of that, and we're working on it. Absolutely working on it. We have some stuff in place is what I'm trying to say, and we want all the ideas like Diane said. Any other ideas you've got, we want to have. We absolutely want them. And I appreciate it. Thanks, Jack.
Yeah, well, after listening to this discussion here, I think it's, my name is Bob Hicks. I live on the north side. Listening to this discussion here, I think it's kind of an issue of maybe start with something as simple as do something that you personally can do rather than give direction to the Pass Action Group. So there's nothing like standing up and doing something as simple as knock on either one of your neighbor's doors and across the street and tell them the story and tell them the urgency of raising money. Then you will have done something positive rather than pontificating on what somebody else can do. The other thing is not really a question for the Pass Action Group, but it's a question for this body here, and that is, how many of you, I assume that most everyone here is very concerned about this, and this isn't your first time learning about it. So the issue up here seemed to be, to some degree, one of should we settle or should we sue? How many of you here that are concerned about this want to do this in order to sue? Settle. You want to see it settled. How many of you here want to see the major contribution because you want to see this thing in a lawsuit? So I think that kind of clarifies what your position is, at least in terms of the number of people present. That I know personally, I made the contribution hoping that a lawsuit would be filed, because every day that this thing is delayed from being done puts ammunition back on our side of the fence. We've been on the short side of the time cycle since day one in this project, and we've been trying to catch up. By filing the lawsuit, it gives us considerable amount of time to let events unfold, some of which Sherry talked about in terms of potential legislation. The other, and not the least of which, is the enormous spec warehouse that's up on Cherry Valley, which is an ideal position for a warehouse, actually, but it has not been rented. So if it remains vacant, that's a negative incentive for anybody to build anything new here, certainly. So, please do what you can to fund this, and I think we will prevail, I hope. Thank you.
Thank you, Bob.
Hi, everybody. I'm Andy Montoya. Andy Randy, good to see you. It's an easy question about one time, maybe I ain't keeping on breaking news, that the developers are going to talk or we're going to negotiate. What was that? I never heard the results on that.
The developer's attorney reached out to us initially about 2 weeks ago, Diane? Yeah, right before March 24th, so whenever that was. And they reached out to us with a very, very small offer, and we did send them a counter as a very casual, I use the word casual, there's probably a legal term for it that I don't know, but a very casual settlement discussion. And we put in some of the stuff that we felt would be something that we would want, besides stopping the warehouse completely. And they said, of course, that's not going to happen. And so that's where it's at now. And then they just in the last few days, they've added a few more things, and that's why we wanted to have this meeting, or part of why we had this meeting, to discuss all of those different things.
Thank you very much on that.
Or discuss our take on it and how we want to go forward.
Good morning. My goodness, I'm not quite awake. Thank you to the Pass Action Group for all the work you do. It's nice to be informed. My name is Beverly Agner. Beverly Agner, thank you for the applause. And I live up on Masters Drive. And I'm one of the type of people that is very proactive in my thoughts. I do all the reading and research and the whole bit. One of the things I have not seen, but I've heard several times, not necessarily from here, but through others, is that, okay, if they're not going to do a warehouse, what can they do that we will be happy with? Well, I'll tell you, about 3 weeks ago, I woke up about 2 in the morning and said, we have draftsmen in here, we have architect people in here that could really come up with some plans if we would give them some ideas. I don't mean to make it structural, I just mean to come up with the ideas of what we would accept over there, because I don't want a warehouse, and I don't want them over there either. I don't want warehouses, especially warehouses built that have no tenants, and that's what most of them are. So I thought, if we could round up some of our artist people, architectural people, general contractors even, and give them an idea of what we would like over there, then we could maybe build on something that would not only be favorable to us, but would help the developers earn some money, not maybe the $300 and whatever $1,000 that'll go into Banning's coffers. But I'm sorry, I've lived in the Pass area since 1964. Banning has never been productive. I'm not complaining about their people, because we are citizens of Banning, and people need to realize that we are citizens of Banning. But let's get proactive on developing what we would like to see over there, and we would have something to present to the developers. Whether they listen or not, we don't know, but we'd be looking like we're doing something instead of just fighting them. Thank you. Sorry.
I wanted to have a short response to that, and also to tell people one more fact that I think is important. We really, really do need contractors or architects or someone that understands how these things are built, we understand how they operate. We probably don't. We have people who know bits and pieces, but we really don't have someone who could sit down and say, here's an alternative, developer. And let's be realistic, folks. That parcel is going to get developed. Wouldn't it be great if we could control how it's developed? Now, maybe we can't, but if we had input from someone who really knows the business, really knows how to do this, that would be extremely helpful. The other thing I wanted to add, something to what Sherry said about this new assembly bill that I believe is in committee right now. The second part of the bill is that the city and the developer have to justify what they call their statement of overriding considerations. The statement of overriding considerations is what the city and the developer did to justify their project, and the long and short of it was, it's going to bring jobs to Banning. Now, that sounds really good as a kind of a soundbite, but the fact is that's really misleading. First of all, within 5 years, this kind of logistics center is probably going to be automated, and there aren't going to be jobs. Second of all, the kinds of jobs that it's going to bring probably are very low-paying jobs, kids right out of high school, people who are on the edge and need a job, and they burn out within a year. If you've read anything about Amazon's turnover rate, it's like 100% every year. this is not the kind of jobs that are going to build this city. These are the kind of jobs that are going to rape and pillage whatever talent the city has. So the new statute, if it's enacted, will require the developer in the city to set out what kind of jobs are involved, what kind of jobs are available, what kind of growth potential there are for those jobs, really make them substantiate their statement of overriding considerations, which would possibly outweigh some of the environmental deficiencies. So that's a really big deal, and whoever wrote that bill has been down the path that we are on. We are going to reach out to the office of the Congresswoman, Assemblywoman who did this proposal, because we may find some other people that will give us more contacts and more information. Okay.
Okay, my name is Ann Oliver. I've been here for almost 20 years. And when I got this, I decided that I'm going to make copies of this and go door to door and ask people if they would give me a donation. I've been in large groups, and I found the best way to get people to contribute or to volunteer is to ask them face to face. And a lot of times they'll say, oh yeah, I was meaning to do that, but they just don't do it. So if any of you know your neighbors, you know your neighborhood, if you can do that, make a few copies of this and take it to your neighbor and talk to them and tell them how much we need their support financially. And I'd be surprised that you'd be able to get a good donation.
Thank you.
Hi neighbors, I'm Marshall Gartenlaub. I've lived here this time 2 months. Previously, I've lived here 5 years. We moved back. I was watching this wonderful meeting on Channel 97 when I heard something very clear, and I came to make a comment. You've commented, all of you, about Eloise Reyes. She's the Assembly Majority Leader who has proposed this bill. Eloise Reyes, who I know personally and very close with the family. I also have really want to recommend that we take a two-action. All the work you're doing legally, fighting the warehouse is very important, and I take my hat off to you to do that. But I think there's a political solution both in Riverside that the county has passed as an approval process, not as a law, that we can get our representative thing. If this many people in this room showed up in Sacramento, I guarantee you the law would be passed. They're totally motivated by citizens personally showing up, and I believe we should take a very strong effort on the political side, and I will gladly help as I can. But I think there's a better solution, a cheaper solution, and a stronger solution in the political side. Thank you.
I would like to add something to that. We also need to have a letter writing campaign, a calling campaign, email campaign, and our assembly member is Chad Mays. He's Assembly District 42. And if you go on his website, there is a place there that you can, office contact information, you can sign up, you can actually click on that, and you can fill out your name, your address, and put your comment in there, and it'll go directly to him. And we need to support this. It's AB 2840. You can look it up and read it. It's a pretty short bill, so you're familiar with it. And then we need to do, like this gentleman said, a political campaign, because these people, if they get enough of this, they will listen to us. And the tide is turning against warehouses in residential areas in this state. And we need to ride that wave in, if we can.
Before you start, give me 1 second. And with regards to the county, at one of our Pass Action Group board meetings recently, we had our county supervisor's chief of staff and one of his legislative assistants speak to us. They volunteered, or I had reached out to them, and they came and spoke to us, and effectively, I'm not gonna mince my words. They told us we had no case except possibly on the traffic. And since then, I've determined, and this is again how wherever Marshall went, we can work with the county. The county has a 1,000-foot distance between warehouses and residents. However, they let each individual supervisor choose whether or not to enforce it. And our supervisor has chosen not to enforce it. And that's a fact. That's an absolute, yeah, and that's Jeff Hewitt. And so that's where that came from in that office. So I just wanted to get that out there. So reach out to that office as well, ask them to start enforcing that, and maybe we can get a change. We can get a change happening in that regard as also. Whether it helps with this case, whether it helps with Sunset Crossroads down the road, whether it helps with somewhere else in the city, or even in Beaumont or Calamasa, as long as it helps the communities in general, that's part of our goal as well.
Good morning, Al Poplowski here. My wife Diane and I own a couple places down here. We're interested in fighting this. I'm wondering if any of the local merchants have been contacted. I arrived late. Perhaps you've discussed that.
We haven't discussed it today, but yes, they have been discussed or addressed in the past. We have received a few donations from local merchants, but not a major amount from some of your big corporate people.
Thank you. Second consideration, the waste management people have a way of calling everybody, and I'm sure we couldn't do it repeatedly, but if you have some pretty important announcement on a once in a great while basis,
hold it up tighter.
Perhaps they would allow you to put your announcement on their system where it calls everybody. That's a long shot. They may or may not.
It's worth a shot. I was at a chamber meeting recently, and I met the gentleman that handles this area for waste management. So that's a good shot. I'll send him an email.
Okay. And the God, what the hell was I going to think? God, I forgot the last one. Okay. Take over.
Please introduce yourself. Good morning. My name's Don Day. I just want to thank the Pass Action Group for everything they're doing. Aren't they great? Question and a comment. Randy, is there a reason why we should not want to go door to door and talk to residents? I know we just went through the election and we struggle getting half the population to even respond to an election, which is really, really sad. But is there a reason why we should not want to do that?
Not that I can think of. Okay. I think we can try to put the teams together, whatever you want to call it, and do that. I think that leads back to Jack's comment about marketing and getting that out there and doing that.
Okay. I think that's something we should probably do. I don't think it needs to be a pressure on the Pass Action Group. You guys got your hands full. I tell you what, I will contact each of the district delegates and ask them for their input on see if we can get a team of people together to go door to door. You guys think that's a good idea? Okay. You know, we did some door-to-door canvassing for a survey previously, just before COVID, I guess it was now. Hard to believe it was that long ago. But I think people were very receptive to opening their doors and talking. I think if going door-to-door is the only thing, and it doesn't cost a penny to do it. So this week I will get in contact with each of the district delegates, get their input, and the other thing is we only have 1,800 people that are taking advantage of, you know, this televised and the website. We still have 4,500 people that don't get financials, they don't get a lot of the information that's shared in this meeting. Obviously, we all care because we're here, but as we said earlier, there's a lot of people that don't know. The other comment I was going to make is at the last board meeting, I suggested that, you know, we really are a jewel of a community here. We have a lot of things to offer. What about doing our own fundraising? What about doing a golf tournament as a fundraiser for the Pass Action Group? Does that sound like something that might make sense? I didn't get any feedback when I brought it up at the board meeting, but I will bring it up again this month. But any of you that have access to board members, you know, we don't need a board meeting to make a decision, I don't think, starting a fundraiser. So that's some things that we could do. You know, they say, if you build it, they will come. I think if you set a function, people will come, they will buy liquor, they'll make donations, they'll buy some snacks maybe. It's money to be made, and that doesn't cost anything either, so.
Thank you, Don. Hey, Don, before you walk away, Bruce, raise your hand. See that gentleman before you leave today. Okay. Thank you. You know why, right, Bruce?
Take two.
Absent-minded Al here. The one thing that we might consider, Charity Week uses numbered envelopes with your name on it. It's a good way of keeping track of who's doing what, and it lays a little guilt trip on the one that's hiding behind everybody else's contribution. So if we had a numbered envelope system when you mail stuff out to people, you keep track of who is contributing and who is not. It's mainly to encourage them to contribute as opposed to the oversight. Anyway, just a suggestion. Thanks for your patience.
Thanks, Al. Are you saying a little peer pressure? Is that what you're trying to say?
I know that. A little peer pressure. I was just reminded I need to introduce myself. I'm Bill Hobbs, a resident of Sun Lakes for 19 years. I just have a couple things, and some of you have touched on the things that I was going to bring up. One is that 1,000-foot ruling, and I thought, wow, this could work, you know. And then I hear about Jeff Hewitt not supporting it. So maybe politically, those of you inclined can help us in that area, all right? The other issue that I have, and many of you were probably there back in March of 2020 when we had our big meeting here in the ballroom, and we had the owner of that development there, and the owner has since sold out, but he's now a consultant, I understand. Okay, and I was here. I mean, we all applauded the man. I believe he was Scottsdale, Arizona, or someplace like that. And they had all these nice videos of all the retail shops they have and how wonderful it looks. And we all bought into it. We all bought into it. And that's something that I just can't forget, all right? And the other thing, it's beyond me. Here it is, April of 2022, that we're all here, and I'm sure we are all upset. I know I am. This has been the worst year and a half or so that I can think of for me personally, but many of you are going through this as well. And it's not just so much the property value for me, because I don't plan to go anywhere, but it certainly is for all the right reasons. Why would a company want to put a 120-bay cold storage warehouse 24/7 adjacent 10 feet from the lakes, 10 feet? And I may wind up there one day, and likely will. But 10 feet from the lakes, that's horrible. I mean, it just does not make sense. And these folks that voted for this, they need to be dealt with through recalls, your votes in the future, etc., because it's absolutely wrong, absolutely wrong. And one last thing, I know everybody's got great ideas on the donations, but I like the one of the raffle. I think that came up. I think a raffle would be great. We just raffled off a golf cart, right? Maybe we could do something similar. I don't know. Raffles would be good that always encourages donations.
There's a lot of guidelines on that. And
Okay.
The charitable trust can do it, but I'm not sure that
The
we can, but
503
we'll
thing,
see what
yeah.
we can find out.
All right, thank you.
Ken Johnson, Birdie Drive. I have a question about, I thought we were going to try to see if we can get assistance from the Attorney General. They have a special group, and I didn't hear that in your status of something that was going to be explored by the lawyers.
That is correct. The Attorney General has an environmental justice unit. I believe they have 14 attorneys on staff, and they're focused a great deal on warehouses. And our attorneys are reaching out to the Attorney General. The Attorney General can weigh in on a lawsuit like this. I'm not sure exactly how it's done procedurally, and we are hoping that they will.
So long as we're going down that path, I appreciate that feedback. So Randy, you've been a district delegate. You've been the second in command. So are the CC&Rs and bylaws of Sun Lakes prohibiting us for the suggestions that a couple people have brought up here to use the district delegates? Because that would be a cause that's not part of Sun Lakes. And I think that we're going to have problems going down that route to use them to attach the newsletters or go door to door. Is that a fair statement?
I would have to double check the CC&Rs, but I know through the leadership of the delegate assembly, I'll put it in simple words. The delegate assembly is not ordered to do anything by the delegate chair. But what they can do in general, if it's not against the CC&Rs, the delegate assembly can make their own resolution to agree to do something, whether it's this case or any other thing. That would, if the delegates vote that yes, we will support that, then that's acceptable as long as it's within our governing documents of Sun Lakes.
Thank you. So this is a marketing pitch. I think Pass Action Group has done and will continue to do a great job for us. As a resident of almost 20 years, I do not want a warehouse. I take a light industrial, which they said earlier. So I've been going around and telling the story every time I've had an opportunity to be in the lounge, the golf shop, when I'm out golfing, and I highly recommend word of mouth does work, and it's my time that I'm giving up, and I appreciate the time that people give me to listen. So I think you need to reach deep into your pocket to see if you've got any cash. I got a checkbook, and I'm going to write my number 3 check. I've been around here. My uncle was here for 27 years. It's not time to give up. It's time to help. I think that you can't let them know our finances. As soon as they know you have you in the corner, what do? They squeeze you a little bit more. When they don't know what you have, they start backing away and looking at their position better. So, again, if you're out having that margarita, $11, don't have the margarita, have a glass of water. If you're going to donate some beer to somebody, donate to the Pass Action Group. For all you out there that watch this later on, we need a larger number. And I don't mind donating because I see what will happen to our property values and our way of life. So make sure, as somebody said from Ukraine, all I need is weapons. I just need weapons. We all need is to get out and reach out and get some more help and bring help to the Pass Action Group. Thank you.
I just have a quick response on a couple of things. I'm Bruce Brown. I'm board member. Hello. Better? Okay, I'm Bruce Brown. I'm on the board of directors, and I'm the manager right now of a volunteer group and interim marketing manager. And I've noticed a few things that came up here to chat about lists and volunteers and stuff. We just finished canvassing of the entire area, and people talked as we went. So not everyone's comfortable on knocking on every door, so some got missed. But some people are very comfortable knocking on every door, and there's been canvassing. So you work with who you have, and you get things done. But just to comment on that, we were challenged, as Randy has mentioned before, to get the contacts from the delegates, because we're challenged to get delegates to help because of what he explained. So what we did was we went out and we have a volunteer list. It's driven by the sheets like you have in the past. Every one of these meetings we have a sheet for you to fill out and say, this is what I do best, this is where I can help. Our very first one that went out, remember out on the veranda, was a great meeting. We were all there and cheering. We had a lot of volunteer forms come in, but very few put what they actually would contribute, what they could do, volunteer for. So we built the list. We originally called it the volunteer list. We changed it to the information list because people wanted information. They didn't really want to step forward. So I am so thankful for people who have mentioned good ideas today, but keep in mind the list that we do have. We have started keeping a list of who does what and keeping a list of who would have done it if they didn't. So we have for canvassing that list, enough to do every district, usually one per district. If you're going to canvass and talk door to door, you need maybe 3 or 4 per district. And we have that on our attachment list. So we have a starting point. So if someone wants to step forward, don't feel like you're alone and I have to do everything. We've built a pretty good base here. I've gone in personally and looked up on Waze what people's districts are and loaded them in individually. It took me 3 days, but we built something to work with. There's a lot to work with. So step up. You won't be by yourself. We've got tools, and we're ready to work with you. Thank you.
Thank you, Bruce. And on that same note, with regards to the list and distribution, we just recently finished going. Some of you have the mailbox outside of your house with the what we call the cubby hole underneath it. Well, we now know exactly how many. 61.2% of the households have the cubby holes, and whatever the difference is, don't have them. 38 point whatever. We went through the entire community, figured out which districts had the cubby holes, because that helped us determine if somebody says, I want to help, but I can't walk. Well, if we can get them in their golf cart and go deliver to the cubby holes, now we know what district we can assign them. So we have been working on that. It hasn't been as fast sometimes as we had all hoped, but we have been working on that and continue to work on it.
Good morning. My name is Paul Perkins. We've lived here for about 22 years. I've been somewhat active in seeing the politics that are going on within the city. I do watch Channel 10 to see the Planning Commission go on, some of the other areas, and I suggest that we all do this. Last week, the Planning Commission approved 2 warehouses, small warehouses, inside of Banning, over towards the airport and off of one of the other areas. Somebody at the meeting brought up that they were not in compliance to the CEQA laws. And I'm not sure, hopefully it was somebody from our organization here, because we need to document this. They pointed out that the CEQA laws weren't being applied properly. And this goes to the basis of fact here in Banning. I've watched basically not the commissioners, but the planning department create fraud. And if they're going to do that, then they should be held liable at all times. It's very important that maybe we need to start documenting these things. You need to watch Channel 10 periodically. I'm not saying as a habit or anything else. I start attending some of the meetings in the city council, listening to what's going on. Ask questions, because in many cases they don't want to answer them. Thank you.
I'd like to make a comment on those two. They're not two warehouses, they're two trucking facilities. They're on small infill lots. They're less than 5 acres. If they're less than 5 acres and they're an infill, they do not have to comply with CEQA, and EIR does not have to be done. So those went through without any oversight, basically. There's also a new trailer up for creation off of Ramsey, between Ramsey and Hargrave, and they're putting a 400,000 square foot warehouse in there. And we haven't been told anything about that. Just someone drove by and someone found the plan and the city's proceeding. So, we have talked about having a moratorium or having an initiative to stop warehouses from being built here. And that's something we're also looking at doing.
And also to touch on what Paul just said too, getting involved and watching Channel 10, understand what's going on, reading different things. Obviously, we don't all do it, and I know many of us, especially in this room, obviously these are supporters in here that are going to care about it. But also a lot of us are retired and so forth, and the first thing is, we're retired, we don't want to work. I've heard that more than once, but we also can't be complacent. That's just my 2 cents.
I want to thank all of you so much. I know the tireless hours and time and everything and the paperwork you've all done in. Thank you. My name is Virginia Cervantes. I live on the north side. I live on the kitty corner of where that wall is. I saw the developers and the city officials go over there, look over that wall back in 2019. I was wondering why the city trucks were there. I was wondering why there were other cars that were there. They were looking over that wall just to see what they can do to us. Then after that, 2020 came. When I called AQMD during our first meeting under the Verdana, I know somebody that works there. She says, Virginia, they only applied during 2020. Living on the north side, 2020, there was no trains, there was no trucks, there were no cars. The freeway was so silent. Actually, it was kind of nice. But to know how scary it was, that there was nothing happening there, they took that advantage, filed their paperwork to use the pollution, air quality, to use their noise quality, to use their traffic quality during that time. So they took advantage of that situation. I went to the first council meeting regarding about this item. I stood in the back, standing by the developers. They were upset because everybody of Sun Lakes was oohing and awing and getting mad and everything. They were standing behind me, commenting how despicable we were. How can they say that? How can they be so mean? Shame on them. Shame on the city for doing what they did behind our backs. City officials, any city officials that watches this or hears this and lives here, let me tell you something. We take this place personal. This warehouse is going to house the homeless. It's going to bring more traffic and danger. So when all of you go back home and think, and anybody else that is watching this, close your eyes and think how dangerous this can be. Sun Lakers, we post all the time about how our relatives can't come in because it takes so long for them to come in. We comment on the traffic that's happening right now in Highland Springs. There's no police officer from Banning giving out tickets. We talk about how congested it is, how dangerous it is. This is reality. Today is reality. And because it is, everyone needs to understand is to support this group, give what you can, when you can, but understand the reality, because my husband and I worked very hard to live here, and we're here to stay. I want to be that person that says, I've been here for 20 years. I've been here for 25 years. If this warehouse goes through within 10 years, we are going to be a ghost town. You're going to sell what you can, when you can, and everything. And that is sad, because the city officials do not care about you. They said, thank you for all the thousands of dollars you've given during charity. Thank you for this, thank you for that. And now it's like, big money's coming in. Who cares about the seniors? They're old. I see it as a very unhealthy tactic toward us. And I don't understand why they hate us so much. Money cannot be that valuable to them when you have thousands of lives living here.
Thank you, Virginia. And you guys, some of you have heard me tell this story before. When we first met with the developers back in November, I believe it was, we commented about the traffic and big rigs blocking the intersection, and we were point blank told by one of the principals of Creation that that's not his problem, that's a law enforcement problem. And when that was brought up to the city, they wouldn't even comment on it. At planning commission meetings, they didn't comment. At the appeal hearing, they wouldn't comment on it. I brought it up then. They wouldn't comment on it. And so when Augie Gomez from Creation said that, that shows the mentality that this builder has, and along with the city allowing it.
This is real quickie, then I'll let you go home. As the past action group has already shown, they don't dilly-dally around. I didn't even get out of here before Bruce came and gave me a sheet to fill out. But that being said, you know, I thought about talking to the district delegates. I understand we have CC&Rs and all that other nonsense we got to play around with. But the fact that we actually have enough people to do what I was suggesting within the organization, we'll talk and see if we can get this thing going, because I think we'll get money if we go door to door.
Thank you, Don.
Remember to speak into the mic. Okay, thank you. Hi, everyone. My name is Milos Raid. I'm from Sun Lake, just here for some 6 years. I appreciate what you are doing, and really you are doing a great job. And we all know that this process is going to be a long process. But one thing is certain to every one of us. We don't want it to see this warehouse here. It's period. We don't want it that. What we wanted, I hope every one of us agree, we wanted some nice shopping center over there. We can go there and do the shopping. We don't want warehouse to be built here. Something, maybe I have a question and comment. Science is, in this case, is on our side. I mean, the building is going to be huge. Carbon dioxide is going to kill us. As the traffic is going to kill us. I know people are talking and saying, and you are saying from here, you don't know outcome of all of this. And how in the world they're asking for the money. I mean, it's logic. I never did a business in my life that I don't know the outcome of that. So what can we say? Yes, I know for any business is the money as we want it for here. But what can we say? Something is behind here. Gentleman mentioned politics. Somebody mentioned that a city is going to be ghost town tomorrow. I don't think so. But you never know. Something is behind all of this. What is it? What do you see it?
The city.
No,
the city,
it's not the money.
Well, the city says it is. I mean, the city has stated, or our city official has stated to a public meeting and to myself that, but we're getting $4 million. Don't you understand that? That's what was quoted to me. How can you argue that? And then, of course, with a trial, with a litigation, there's never a guaranteed outcome with any litigation, as we all know. You know, we've seen it on civil, we've seen it on criminal. We've seen it both ways.
Yeah, no, it's a money. But one thing is certain, we don't want that warehouse to be built here. And we appreciate that you are trying to do everything to stop that. That's why we are here. We don't want it to them. So
Exactly.
please, let's do it everything as possible.
Absolutely.
That we can stop that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Phil Jackson, been here a little over 18 years. I had an experience last week that I wanted to mention. I think it's fairly obvious that the initial or the current focus has to be on fundraising and the potential lawsuit or the lawsuit and whatnot. But there's also been talk about changing the city council, the whatnot. That's bigger than Sun Lakes, with the exception maybe of Mary Hamlin. I think others, there's a larger voting bloc. Last week I was in a local grocery store, and I was wearing a T-shirt that said Sun Lakes, and the cashier said, very pleasantly, very curiously, kind of said, "Well, what are you old folks all excited about?" I said, "Well, the warehouse." He said, "Well, I know, but what's wrong with a warehouse?" And I said, "Well, for starters, how about a couple hundred big rigs a day on Highland Springs?" She said, "What do you mean?" I said, "Well, the traffic for the warehouse is going to be on Highland Springs." She said, "Well, they can't let that happen." She said, "Surely they're going to be a tunnel or something under the railroad." And I said, "No." I said, "Furthermore, anybody who uses the intersection up there at Highland Springs and Ramsey 6th Street is going to be impacted." And she said, "Well, that's a problem." I said, "Yeah." The fact of the matter is there are very few people in Banning or Beaumont who don't use that intersection, never mind the I-10 intersection. And so, and it seemed, based on my little experience last week, that the eye-opener is traffic. Now, I know, from our immediate legal standpoint, traffic's probably a very minor issue, but I think in terms of the voters in Banning, if they're told what's going to happen on Highland Springs, they may get excited about that. So I don't know if there's some way that we can get out to the larger community that doesn't worry about, whether Sun Lakers are going to breathe foul air or that sort of thing. But if there's some way we can get out to the larger community and even commuters about the issues that could be caused on Highland Springs by all the truck traffic, I think that would be useful as we look forward to try and change the political situation. Thank you.
Yeah, and that's a great idea, and we will, when we do reach out to the rest of the rest of the city, that's a great idea, to put the emphasis on traffic for the rest of the city. Yeah, we had done that with signs and so forth. Go ahead, Jim.
Hello, everyone. I'm Jim Corrigan. I'm also a board member, board of directors member, and I assist where I can. And I just wanted to speak to you a little bit about clearing up a misnomer and a little bit to clarify finances. And I want to thank you all for your attendance. I really do. I think we all appreciate it. Excuse me, on such short notice. But private property can be developed by the owners, number one. We can't dictate as a community, what they build there. That's up to the city's process. The planning department, the development director, the planning commission, as long as it fits within the criteria of the development code of the city of Banning. None of their processes, I believe, have been done correctly. Things have been massaged, things have been moved forward. There's been, what I understand, having 28 years after being in construction, being a general contractor, union framing carpenter, 28 years in jurisdictional building and safety, including development review committees. So I'm part of the review committees. When these people come in the front door, we shake their hands, hi, how you doing? They make application to the city. They can develop their properties any way they want. The time might come where if we can keep this project from moving forward and they want to know, well, then what would they negotiate to include over on that property when, okay, all our community architects, all our people with ideas, what is good? It's not time for that yet. We're locked in. Their city's locked in. It's pushed forward. It's going forward. The only thing stopping it is Pass Action Group. And I also want to clarify, every one of us is volunteers. Multiple hours per day, each day since we started, especially our legal team. And you know, those that remain with us, the marketing has currently developed because we first had to address the appeal. We first had to focus on the appeal, trying to prevent the appeal overturn the Planning Commission with reaching out to everybody for protests, sign creations, money spent. This is one day a week that we meet and plan, and everybody else on their different committees, you know, back to the officers of the board, president, vice president, secretary, treasurer, you know, for making sure that we're moving all forward together under their guidance. One of the things that's very important, the $100, if everybody gave $100, you know, we'd have 370,000, 340,000, whatever it is. That's if every single individual in the community gave that $100. Right now, it's roughly 21%. So just like any other association, just like any other church assembly, just like any other, that 20% work and do all the work, and you know, maybe 10% of that do the finance support, and that's where we're at. So if everyone doubled, tripled up what they've already given, that'd be our $300,000 mark. This is the bare bones facts. If we could reach the rest of the community, which obviously our marketing is gearing towards that, and we have a lot of hurdles and abilities like the district delegates to assist us in reaching out to people. There's just, you know, some difficulties in doing that, which we all have to try to work around. So, thus the need for the continued financial requests. I just want to add this last thing, and I'm not speaking in closing for Pass Action Group. Right now, today, we wake up, we drive out our front gate, gate 1 if you live where I live, in the condos on La Costa Drive, within that 1,000-foot mark. So now I'm receiving notifications from the city because they increased that from, what, 300 feet to 1,000 just to try to, you know, oh, we better butter that a little bit better for this next procedure. We drive off that front gate, and there's beautiful, you know, San Gorgonio Mountains and snow caps, and right? When we wake up one morning and we drive out that gate, and there's a 4 to 5 story, not gray, probably painted, but concrete tilt up, 4 to 5 story high building out there. And how about the lakes? Who's going to be wanting to live on that second floor after that warehouse is right behind them and perpendicular 90 degrees surrounding them? And that building, to me, I got to believe, you know, it would probably, you know, be a ghost town at that point. And we do have promise of financial support from the owner and the 51% majority owner, 2 entities, for financial support. So that's coming in as well. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Jim. Before Millie comes up, I just wanted to touch base on one thing too. Jeannie Lloyd is our treasurer. Wave your cast, Jeannie. Sorry. Jeannie's our treasurer, and she is going to be up here if anybody wants to make any donation today. You've got all the information on that. Also, Sherry wants to say a few words real quick. Hang on one second.
No problem. So before everyone leaves, I have a sign-up sheet for the recall petition. I'd like your name and your phone number, and when I get the petitions, I will contact you, and we'll have a meeting and go over all of the procedures. You'll have handouts to take with you, and so if you want to sign up and help with that, it's very, very important. Please, when you're done here today, come up and it'll be up front. And you can read the petition too if you'd like to.
Thank you. And you can do that up here at the front, this front table. Go ahead, Millie.
My name is Millie Hunter, and I live on Northwood Avenue. Luckily, I live on the Gulf side. My neighbors are backing up partially to the lakes and partially to that open land. Now, I just saw in the paper a week or so ago, we had a congressman here visiting, offering $10 million for upgrades and so forth to the streets and so forth. He also was asked about what he thought about warehouses in residential areas, and especially seniors, and he was very against it. So maybe we can get help from that. The other thing is this land back, and I go back years with this place, that land was zoned residential. It was supposed to be a continuation of Sun Lakes on the north side. But Mr. Presley, the developer, and I was in new home sales for 20 years, and I worked for Presley and other builders selling houses. Well, he ran into some problems financially, so he got the city to change the zoning for him to commercial. Now, there have been different developments that wanted to build there. Now, the city of Banning is not building enough homes to satisfy the state laws. Why don't we get it rezoned to residential again? We need housing here, housing for seniors, housing that for, in fact, this is a great idea, federally funded housing for seniors with limited income. That would make a nice community, and they could make a very good profit doing so.
And that's a great idea, and we need to, unfortunately, we need to wrap things up. But once this case is wrapped up, then we'll work on the rezoning.
Okay.
so that we don't deal with it again a year from now. Thanks, Millie. Okay, so I am gonna wrap it up. I appreciate everybody coming. I did neglect to thank the entire board of the Pass Action Group. I didn't bring my list, so rather than miss somebody, I'm just gonna say, raise your hands if you're here. Thank you for all you've done and helped this process. I appreciate it. And Jeannie is up here at the table now. If you have anything you want to drop off there, and we will get all this marketing and all this stuff going. You're gonna see more and more of us in coming weeks.